All right. It is Thursday afternoon, East Lansing, Michigan. My name is Jim Comparoni, SpartanMag.com publisher. Come on in, gather around. Can talk some Michigan State football. Coming to you a little later in the week than we wanted to, but it's a short week with Labor Day crowding off the previous weekend. We got a lot of work done, watched a lot of film. Michigan State with a big winner last week, 23-6 over Western Michigan. Got Boston College coming to town this weekend. A little bit of a revenge situation, not in terms of hateful, vengeful, but Michigan State players eager to show that they were better than what they established, what they demonstrated last year, losing at Boston College. We've got Ron Armstrong, big Moobie from SpartanMag.com, a valued member over there at SpartanMag.com, and we enjoy having him here on Spartan Mag Live, and we got him here today. Ron, you doing all right? How you doing, man? You doing all right?
Man, I'm doing great. But glad to be back with you talking some ball here. You know, the talking season's over, and we actually got some pads popping, so it's good to be back on.
Yeah, and we had one Spartan Mag Live a week and a half or so ago, and I know that you are real close with a lot of information that was that goes on in terms of football and those type of things. Didn't really want to have you on before the season started because that might have, I didn't want you to think about, well, what did I see? And, now that we've had games on TV that everybody has seen, then we can get Ron Big Movie Armstrong, former Michigan State football player, card-carrying member, Spartan Dog, and an astute observer of Michigan State sports, a close observer, and we enjoy having him on the show. Michigan State looked good in that running game in the first half. We will get into what happened and what went wrong in the second half as we get into the mailbag session of the podcast. Ron, I'm not sure how long you can be with us, but your overall impressions, I was talking yesterday with Paul Konerdijk here on the SpartanMag.com over the VCast over the stadium, and the word that I used to describe Michigan State's victory over Western Michigan was encouraging. I thought it was an encouraging performance in a lot of areas. Michigan State didn't necessarily keep, in my opinion, in the second half, I think the focus might have waned a little bit. Maybe that's too simplistic. I'll get into that later. But I thought it was an encouraging victory for Michigan State, an encouraging performance in a lot of ways, especially on that offensive line, and seeing some things in the run game that I wasn't really sure about, but it looked credible, in my opinion, the run game to begin with. Your thoughts about that or anything else, initial observations coming out week number one, the victory over Western Michigan?
It's kind of funny that, what a difference a week makes. Last week, this time, I was just kind of in a cranky mood, and I hate playing against the directional teams and whatnot, just because I don't think you don't get a lot of benefit in terms of credit for beating them, and sometimes you can lose to them, and then so I just don't like playing them. But that aside, I went into the game there were some things I wanted to see, and I wanted to see a clean operation. I wanted to see us run the football, and I wanted to see us get out of that game healthy. And I think we checked all three boxes in terms of what I wanted to see, coming out of that game against Western Michigan. I thought the operation in the first half looked as good as I've seen it look around here in a long time. Guys knew where they were supposed to be, echoing calls, getting guys, and we were running, hockey substitutions, getting guys in and off the field. You didn't see misalignments, you didn't see blown coverages. So the operation was clean. Guys were disciplined in their technique and their, their assignments and stuff. So to me, it checked all the boxes of what I wanted to see from an opener.
I would agree with all those things. Let's start with that run game. Michigan State getting some movement along that right side of the offensive line. I was surprised that Caleb Carter got the start at right guard. I didn't have any idea about that, and I didn't really get a chance to ask many questions about that this week at interviews. By the way, give us a like here at the channel. Go to SpartanMag.com. Subscribe, $1 for the week. If you like this Michigan State content, Michigan State talk, Spartan Mag's a place you need to be to follow Michigan State sports throughout this week and the season and the weeks ahead. So, right side of the line, Caleb Carter. We heard that it was Christian Phillips battling with Luka Vincic, and we found out that Luka Vincic had a little slight injury. They expect him to be back on the field probably this weekend. But Phillips didn't get the start. Caleb Carter did. And I got to say, I went back and watched Caleb Carter during the winter coming out of Western Carolina, and I thought he'd just be a reserve, ninth guy, 10th guy, depth guy. Did not expect him to start. And then when he did start, that was surprising to me. And then he played pretty well there at right guard. Phillips did some good things in the run game as well. But that was one of the surprises in terms of personnel group. Caleb Carter there at right guard. And then Michigan State on the offensive line, switching it up quite a bit, sometimes with some issues, with some false starts and so forth. But Caleb Carter was a surprise. And that run game, Mekhi Frazier, I thought showed some quickness that I didn't know that he had. Quickness, accelerating through the line of scrimmage. I thought his vision was pretty good because there was some daylight there, and he found it. and Tullis did some decent things as well. But the running backs, Tullis, Frazier, and the run blocking. Your thoughts?
I'll tell you the first word that I saw our guys winning, the physical collisions. We're winning the collisions up front. But to your point about the running backs, what I saw was trust. They got the ball and they ran the play. I didn't see guys dancing and trying to hit the home run. They ran the play. They cut the daylight, and just executed the play the way it was drawn up. And that's you can tell they trusted that it's going to be blocked properly. And that just comes from reps, over the summer and getting guys in there getting comfortable with the O-line is going to, provide openings for those guys to run through. And it looks like it showed on, especially in the first half, those guys are just hat on hat moving people and the backs were hitting it up in there and, cutting the daylight.
And pass protection broke down a little bit in the second half. Number 11, Tucker for Western Michigan, got in there and made some moves to the outside, counter moves to the inside. I talked to Stanton Ramil about it a little bit this week. Just a couple of questions. And I can't remember if it was Ramil. It might have been tight ends coach, Wozniak. But Western Michigan, I expected Western to be better. I'm not sure they're an upper division MAC team this year. But number 11 was good, and he gave Michigan State a look in pass protection. Not only Stanton Ramil, but Connor Moore when Moore moved over to the left tackle. And a couple times when number 11 was over at left defensive end going against Connor Moore. Crossed face on Connor Moore one time for a tackle for loss. I thought Connor Moore overall had a pretty good game. But number 11 tested him, tested Lepo. So all three offensive tackles got some work against 11, and 11 showed up as a good sparring partner and showed some cracks here and there. Your thoughts about pass protection? We could talk a little bit about some miscommunications that happened, but number 11, Tucker, he gave Michigan State a look there in pass protection, I thought.
Absolutely. Listen, that guy was getting off the ball. He just was, looked like a pretty good football player. I'm not going to make it excuses. Those guys are on scholarship too, and it looked like the kid could play. Some of that stuff to me, I thought maybe he was kind of teed into the cadence a little bit, so the quarterback can help some of those tackles out. We just kind of, it don't always have to be a snap count change. You can kind of throw off the rhythm with your cadence because it seemed like he was dialed into that cadence and was just teeing off. So that you can kind of help your tackles out, just kind of changing that cadence, the rhythm of your cadence up a little bit. But all in all, that kid just made plays. And sometimes you got to tip your hat to the other guy. And again, some of that came when we were shuffling the deck a little bit, but that's to be expected. You got to be, football is a game of, of adversity. And sometimes you're going to be thrown into a spot you're not used to playing. So it's good to see, coaches being, proactive and putting guys in uncomfortable situations in game action, and just kind of seeing how guys respond. And I thought 11 was a great test. It's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, Nadeem Tucker is his name, defensive end. He's redshirt senior, 6'3", 250, out of New York. High school is Teaneck. I think that's Teaneck, New Jersey. Played 3 years at the University of Houston. Saw action in 13 games. Saw action in 9 games in 2023. 1 tackle for loss. Prior to Houston, he was at Hutchinson Community College, where he had 12 sacks in 1 or 2 seasons. Anyway, at Houston, he didn't get on the field much. Not sure why, but he drops down from Power 4, down to Group of 5, senior, and the light goes on. For whatever reason, didn't work out for him at Houston, but you could see he has the ability to play for a Power 4 team. And I'm sure Michigan State went on film and looked up individuals and so forth. They may not have saw much in him when they looked on film. And the number 11 that they saw in the film Friday night is something that I'm not sure they expected and didn't scheme toward. They can adjust as the game is going along. But the good news is that Michigan State saw a real live opponent there in that particular matchup and had made some mistakes. So that gave them something to work on through the course of the practice week for sure. Aiden Childs comes out with the short passes, intermediate passes, 17 out of 23, 155 yards. The per pass attempt average is not great, somewhere around 6 yards. That would be, bottom quarter of the Big Ten. And Jonathan Smith said in the postgame press conference, want to be more explosive, that the yards per pass attempt is not what they were looking for. And this is a Michigan State team that likes to get that run game established, then get you leaning toward that, and then hit you with some throwbacks or some deep shots or some deep overs the other way. Michigan State didn't really stress it much in the deep part of the field. I don't know if that was by design or Childs just trying to take what he could get and get a comfort level. I thought Michigan State coming out with the script with some now routes, some quick, I don't know if they were wide receiver screens. I think one might have been, but some quick outs to the perimeter to, stretch that defense a little bit horizontally. That's what they got going first. Then the run game, then the play action off the run game. A lot of that made sense. So the completion percentage was good for Childs. Total yards, not great. Long of 28, sacked 4 times. No interceptions, no near interceptions. This is Childs, who had 3 interceptions last year against Boston College in the rain. Childs was pleased with taking care of the ball first and foremost. That was of the utmost importance. So he operated the short game, did some things in the run game with his own legs, designed keeper on 3rd down for 25 yards on the left sideline on the opening drive. Maybe it was the second drive. Yeah, opening drive, first or second drive. So Childs overall, I thought more good than bad, and I really liked when he was hitting it to the wide side of the field with those out routes, left hash to right sideline or right hash to left sideline, the entire field, when Western was playing off coverage and giving you that hitch to the wide side of the field. Most of their opponents aren't going to be able to take those 11 yards. Childs, with that arm strength and accuracy, able to make those work. He was inaccurate on a couple of passes in the second half, which contributed to Michigan State's offense. Some of those stalled drives, inaccurate twice, which led to punts. But overall, I thought Childs was functional and something to build on there. Your thoughts?
The first thing I everybody wants to see, the home runs and, throw the ball deep and all that kind of stuff. You have to. But I think for this team, at this point right now, I want to see an efficient Aiden Childs, and then hit those 1 or 2 deep balls when we have them. But I thought he was for the most part. I thought, like, let me back up. Yes, the throws to the wide side of the field, those are pro throws. He made a couple of throws that, like, you might not see too many kids, playing college football that can make those throws. Those are just, back foot hit the ground, balls out, banger, those are great throws. Mm-hmm. But I like the efficient game. I like taking care of the football. If every drive ends with a kick, we'll be fine. So no turnovers. Don't give the ball to the other team, and be efficient. Move the chains, keep moving the chains. Those deep balls will open up. The more efficient he is at hitting the short to intermediate throws, the easier it's going to be to get Marsh over the top, Kelly over the top, start springing some of these big plays. But I think it starts with him being efficient and commanding the offense, and I thought he showed some progress in that regard.
I would agree with that, and a lot of that is encouraging, part of what I'm talking about being encouraging. Now, Childs in the run game, a couple of times I thought when he looks at film, there were some choices that he made that he would probably like to have over again. There was I'm not sure on the deep pass when he threw to Tullis, when Tullis was unable to haul it in and track it, overthrew him a little bit. I'm not, he could have tucked that in and run for 10 to 20 yards. I'm not sure. When they look at film, I'm not sure. He's got the choice on that. I don't know if they would want him to go ahead and keep that. Early in the game, I think you take the shot there. If that's a game-winning drive situation, maybe you move the chains. I'm not sure. But in the run game, there's a 3rd and 5 on a split zone read where he keeps the ball and dances outside and gained a yard, which set up 4th and 4. Michigan State converted the 4th and 4 with a pass to Omari Kelly. But split zone read option, 3rd and 5. If he would have handed it off, I'm not sure how much room was there, but keeping it was not the right decision, and he learns as he goes on these things. But 3rd and 5, when they're trying to utilize the run game, the quarterback run game as a threat or a choice, he can probably improve on that particular decision as far as his own run game. And there was another one. It's 1st and 10 at their own 48 with about 8 minutes to go in the first half, and Michigan State ran counter action. It looked like, instead of zone read, it looked like counter read, and he kept it and lost 5 yards. That one should have handed it off as well. So some of those read options, he needs to find a better feel for that because they want to utilize his legs. That 26-yarder in that opening drive, designed keeper with a running back lead. Good block by wide receiver Krishawn McCray on a linebacker on that one. So some good and some things to work on there in terms of Childs with the run game. How much of the run game would you like to see with Childs? You don't want to expose him to too much damage, but 3rd downs when it comes time to move the chains, Michigan State's going to sprinkle those things in there. Your thoughts on the run game? His decisions, I would imagine, can improve on those.
I would prefer to see not very many called runs, but I would like to see Aiden use his legs in a scramble situation. I think to me, the quarterback's much more dangerous when when they're dropping and he can get out of the pocket and use his legs and scramble, get on the ground and save himself. Then you're calling these inside zone runs and he's taking big hits. I'd prefer not to see a lot of that. I prefer to see more scramble situation where now he's outside the pocket, he's a threat to run, threat to throw. Pick up what you can, get on the ground, get in the huddle. So you got to sprinkle it in to keep the defense honest. But as a defensive guy, it's much more of a threat to me having a quarterback can leak out in the passing game than calling runs, design runs for a quarterback. Because unless you're Braxton Miller, a few other guys that come along, the running back's going to be a better ball carrier. So to me, it's always more of a threat to get a ball to the running back and have a quarterback running the ball in the run game. So I get it. You get a +1. You're keeping the defense honest. But for me, the bigger threat is seeing a mobile quarterback get out of the pocket and leak out and use his legs that way. So to answer your question, I prefer to see Aiden use his mobility to escape sacks and get out of the pocket and pick up yards that way.
On the deep shot, first drive to Tullis, and Tullis was just leaking out in the scramble rules. He was not initially part of the primary concept, pass concept or pattern, as they used to say back in the 70s and 80s. But he leaks out here in the scramble. The defense turns him loose. Childs is looking to run, sees him, kind of overthrows him. Tullis maybe would probably look at that film and wish that he would have turned and tracked that one a little bit better, but he was overthrown. There was that one. There was another scramble, I think, when they threw deep, I think maybe to McCray, overthrew him when he was open. Your thoughts on those two deep shots that were kind of scramble situations, if I remember correctly, and Childs not quite being able to hook up on those two, but for this offense to really become full gear of what it can be, and an offense capable of helping a team win at Nebraska, at Minnesota, win at home against Michigan, some of those games that are going to be the difference between going 5-7 and potentially 8-4. Those broken plays when a defense does turn someone loose, Childs has to be able to connect with those. And we're 13 games into his career at Michigan State, and those still have a little bit too much adrenaline on them, I would think.
Yeah, you just got those throws. You got guys wide open, behind the defense. You just got to. Some of those throws, I think he tries to, be too perfect and fit the ball in there. Some of them you got to put it on the guy and make him responsible for making the catch. And I think there's a balance there that he needs to reach in terms of which ones he needs to put a little bit of air on them, and once he needs to drive. And then, again, it's because a young quarterback, man. How many start 14?
Start 13. 13 starts.
Start 13. It'll come together. Like some of this stuff, man. We're like speeding these guys along in their development. Yeah, we need him to hit those throws, but again, he's still an infant in his development stage, so they'll come. But again, it's just that finding that sweet spot between driving the football and putting a little bit of air on it. And I think guys with big arms, they like to show them off. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And sometimes,
I would not know. I wouldn't know.
You could tell he's trying, because even on the touchdown he threw to Marsh, I thought he put a little bit too much loft on that, but he was trying not to just rip a throw that he didn't need to. So he kind of let that one go a little bit too much of a water balloon. But you can see he's trying to develop that touch where okay, I can put a little bit of touch on this one and still get it there. It'll come. I think you can see. To me, he looked like a different quarterback than last year. He looked like a confident quarterback. You saw him get a little bit loose with his mechanics, and I saw him do a little hand signal, and he was kind of talking about his balance. Did you see that?
When he was inaccurate on one of his passes?
Yeah, he was doing a little hand signal with his balance. I'm like, that's a guy that's aware, like I was off on that one. Like that's my, you know what I mean? So the improvement is going to come. The kid's working hard. You can see the game starting to slow down for him a little bit, and it's just a matter of getting those live game reps.
All right, I think the deep one was to Omari Kelly. Could have went for 75 yards, and his numbers would have looked a lot different if you'd have connected on that one. I agree we are splitting hairs, trying to speed up the process, but you can see the ceiling with him and this team, that if he can, hone in on his run game aspect here and there, and some of those design keepers, which need to be limited, and making a defense pay when they turn someone loose, this offense, as it climbs toward its ceiling of potential, makes Michigan State more dangerous in some of these games. I said before the season that I thought Michigan State was going to become a team that's difficult to beat on Saturdays. Not saying they're going to go 12-0, but to come out and beat Michigan State, you're going to have a harder time than Rutgers had last year, a harder time than Indiana had last year. And through one game against a mediocre MAC opponent, I feel more strongly about that. And the run game, I think, is going to be credible, and Michigan State's ability to stop the run, which is going to be key this weekend against Boston College. Boston College did not run the ball well against a bad Fordham team. Did a lot of damage to the air, like 450 yards throwing. They have a couple good quarterbacks, good receivers. Fordham's pass defense was just slow. I mean, people were open all day, but their top two running backs for Boston College only averaged about 2.9, 3.0 per carry against a very questionable defense. So Boston College is working on that. They want to come in and establish the run. They outrushed Michigan State last year, something like 157 to 127. I don't think that's going to happen this weekend. I think Michigan State stops the run, makes them one-dimensional. Then we'll see what Michigan State brings with their pressures, which there was a wide variety of pressures against Western Michigan. There's going to be more of them. Michigan State does not have that one dynamic pass rusher. Can they do it by committee? That's going to be interesting to watch, because I think Michigan State and the ground defense is going to stop the run, and I think they're going to do that against most opponents. They're not going to stop the run against Penn State, but I think they'll be hard to run against when they play Michigan, Minnesota, a team that likes to do damage on the run, Iowa, a team that likes to do damage on the run. I think run defense is going to be good this weekend and through the course of the season. Your thoughts, are you more encouraged about Michigan State long-term this year? You mentioned you were a little bit grouchy last week going into the game, just because a MAC team is visiting and the risk-reward is not great. But you feel a little bit better about Michigan State's chances of becoming that team that is hard to beat every single weekend, which is, in my opinion, the first step toward getting to 6-6, 7-5, 8-4.
You're talking about something that like how I look at football teams, and I saw something, and really what it comes down to is this: how many guys do you have on your team that can help you win games? Most teams, if you be your first 22 and you start kind of getting into your backups, there's some drop off. I like how many guys we can play right now, especially in that defense, and there's not a significant drop-off. You're just shoveling bodies, and they're coming in. Even if it's their job is going to be coming to do these 7 plays, they're going to be their plays, but it's not going to be drop-off. So I think that the more that, that depth that, we played a lot of guys. They're shuffling in bodies on that defense. Like I said, some hockey substitutions on that defense. Mm-hmm. And that's just going to pay off. Like, you got D tackles getting, 35 snaps. They can go hard all 35 snaps. You got D ends getting 35 snaps. They can rush, they can get after it. So that the amount of bodies we can throw, number one, that's key right there. But two, I thought these guys look more comfortable in the scheme. Again, I talked about it earlier. I didn't see any blown coverages and guys going the wrong way. Mm-hmm. You didn't see the incredulous look from the secondary because one guy didn't get the calls, and it just looked like the whole unit was on the same page. And I got to give a big shout out to Jordan Hall. I thought that was the best game he's played here as a football player. And I'm not even talking about the physical plays, the blitz and the tackling. I'm talking about that kid taking charge of the defense, echoing the calls, hitting guys in the fanny, getting them lined up right, making sure the safety, away from the play is echoing the call to the corner away from the play, like hurry, getting the sideline to get the calls in. That kid was taking charge of that defense, and again, these are the things you have to have, like you said, to get from 6-6, 7-5, 8-4 to, when you start challenging and being a threat to actually win this thing. So I like a lot what I saw from that defense, and I do think we're going to be tough to run on this weekend, especially against Boston College. I think those kids felt like that was a game we probably left the W on the field up at BC last year. Yeah. And these kids are going to be excited to get back out there and kind of get some revenge.
Yeah, credit to Boston College last year. They did not make mistakes. They played at home, deserved to win because they didn't make mistakes. Michigan State mistakes all over the place last year. Childs, 3 interceptions. 2 of them were crossing routes to Velling, where he threw behind. It was raining. Childs was a guy from Southern California. I know he played a year at Oregon State, but starting a game in the rain, first time he's ever done that. And early in the season last year, I thought Childs had some accuracy issues. This game, 1 or 2 or 3 times, but for the most part, when guys were open, he was hitting them. There was one time when he threw behind Omari Kelly, and Omari Kelly reached behind, made a real nice catch. But those 3 interceptions, Nathan Carter dropped a touchdown pass, and then the 2 defensive errors for big plays, touchdowns, changed the game. We talked about this yesterday off the air. Paul and I talked about it. You go back and look at that game. Some people might not remember, but there was a running play that got loose down the left sideline. I think it went all the way for a touchdown. And that kid's back, by the way. I think that was McDonald. And Cal Halliday was pursuing to the outside. And I don't know what he saw, but he turned and did a 180 back toward the grain of the play and ran into Malik Spencer, who was pursuing over the top, basically through a block. So now Michigan State, instead of having 11 on defense, they have 9. And Boston College, essentially, instead of having 11 on offense, they have 12 because Cal Halliday was throwing a block for the running back, gets loose down. Cal gave a lot of effort, good Spartan, did what he could. That was Keystone Cops on that play. And then the game-winning touchdown, Angelo Gross got turned inside out and man-to-man and fell down. Touchdown. Gross, Halliday, no longer on the team, but those 2 plays, 14 points, and then Michigan State with the interceptions, dropping a touchdown pass and so forth. No question. They feel like they could have, should have won that game, and what a difference that would have made. You get to 6-6, go to a bowl game, maybe pick up another one along the way somewhere. But you're right. I think these players are eager, once they turned on that film this week, to want to demonstrate that they were better than what they showed last year. And I don't think there's animosity toward Boston College. I think there was respect. In the press conferences this week by Michigan State players, nobody's being braggadocious about it, but they are eager as athletes to demonstrate that they were better than what they showed last year, and that begins with Childs. Last year, Nick Marsh did not play in this game. This past weekend, Omari Kelly, the transfer from Middle Tennessee State, targeted 10 times, 7 catches, 75 yards, was open deep on that one. Childs missed him. Otherwise, he might have had 8 catches for 150 yards rather than 75. But as a possession receiver to begin with, we've been hearing a lot of good things about Omari Kelly in the spring and preseason camp, and he showed himself to be a good, reliable, proficient, skilled veteran wide receiver. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think, some guys just know how to get open. You know what I mean? Whether they're playing against man coverage or zone coverage, you just know how to get open. And you talked about something, you said Childs throwing behind guys. Mm-hmm. I think some of that, I think quite a bit of that last year, especially over the middle, was guys running through windows. Like, it's zone. Sometimes you got to settle down. I think we had some receivers that were carrying their routes a little too far, and Childs expected them to throttle down. They kept carrying, and some of that stuff. That's how you know that miscommunication. And that just, again, reps, getting guys in the summer, throwing in the spring. So I think you'll see less of that. Guys just, miscommunication. I don't think all those were bad throws. Like some of that stuff you see zone, and especially, those crossing routes, all week the scout team is showing you that the ball should be out in the first window. But then you get in the game, and then the guy's kind of closing that window, and the receiver needs to carry, or vice versa. So some of that stuff is just reps and communication and seeing it, live action. And then some of it obviously is the quarterback just being more consistent in his technique and, delivering the throws. But again, that just comes with time, and I think we're going to be better off in the long run. So I see a whole lot of improvement. And let me talk about Velling. I texted you over the way. You and I talk all week, mm-hmm. and I was watching film, and I sent you a text. I'm like, "Did you see Velling's block on Tullis' touchdown run?" And it's just good block. So then, it's just hat on hat, carve the guy out, turn his butt toward the sideline. It's an open door. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Progress.
Yeah, progress.
Jack Velling.
That's where I'm at with this team. Every week I just want to see you. Obviously, we want to win the game, but let's just keep hammering away, keep progressing, keep getting better. And I think I just got a good feeling about this group, Comp. Like, there's so many guys playing the right way, and as long as, like, you hear this all the time, more games are lost than they're won. Mm-hmm. As long as we're not out there, with these unforced errors and misalignments. Effort penalties are going to happen. You're going to get face masks. You're going to get holding. Those things happen. That's part of football. But being misaligned and not knowing, and taking delay games, all these things pre-snap, like, those kill you. And if you're struggling offense, 1st and 15, that's a punt most of the time. Mm-hmm. The struggling offense. Mm-hmm. So we got to stay ahead of the change, be efficient, clean up, be clean on our side, and then force the other team to be the team that's making the mistakes. Because the more we play a clean game, and those guys make any mistakes, those mistakes will become more costly. Mm-hmm. So if they got 2 turnovers and we have 2 turnovers, it kind of, they wash. But we got to be clean on our side and just, stay in the game and put game pressure on other teams so, they'll start making mistakes and we can capitalize off those.
Velling showing some progress there with that block. Didn't deplete anybody, but just turned, sealed, found his guy, made a read, found his landmark, and Tullis with vision. I think Frazier and Tullis ran with good vision in this game. But Velling, Brian Wozniak, Michigan State's tight end coach, spoke with him earlier this week, and they're trying to get Velling back up to speed because he missed a lot of the summer and missed more than 3/4 of preseason camp. And Wozniak said that, quote, I can't remember the exact quote, so I shouldn't quote him, but in the spring, he basically said Velling was blocking his rear end off in the spring. Mm-hmm. So Wozniak saw progress in the spring blocking. Velling is a mindful guy, knows he needed to get better at blocking, apparently did improve in that. Was not 100% as a blocker in this game, but that play on that touchdown, finishing that drive, Velling made it happen. They didn't have Velling in the passing game as much as, Smith said maybe they wanted to. I think they targeted him once on a 3rd and 2 on one of those little quick screen now routes. Kind of made a guy miss to move the chains. Smith said Velling would have liked to have been targeted more, but Velling's not going to say that. But Velling said this week, we, the team, I think he said, or maybe it was Wozniak, I could get him mixed up. Basically, they said they weren't sure how much Velling was going to be able to handle as he continues to recuperate and improve from that preseason injury. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to script to really focus in on him. So secondly, Brendan Parachek, undisclosed injury, unavailable, a young man who's had some injury issues through the course of his career. So that one tight end is not available. The other one, they weren't sure how much they were going to give him. So you have Masunis and Velling played some 2 tight ends here and there. But because tight end availability was a little bit questionable, Michigan State, I think, made the adjustment to say, okay, we're going to do more than just straight I formation. Put Jay Coyne on the field, played 11 snaps. So that's a way of, Michigan State wants to be a 2 and 3 tight end team and really be heavy in that area. Maybe didn't have the people available to them, so they went with the I formation. I'm not sure if we'll see I formation all year, but that's something opponents will have to prepare for. But I thought that was a personnel adjustment, and Michigan State went to former walk-on defensive end Jay Coyne, his second year at fullback, and he did some decent things. 11 plays, I formation, 7 runs, 4 passes. All 4 passes out of the I formation were completions for 8 to 11 yards. So I'm not sure if Michigan State's an I formation heavy team or if that was because of the tight end availability, but Michigan State made it work with those personnel groups.
It's just another thing on film that you have to prepare for. So, any time that they have to prepare for, different looks, that's an advantage for your team, and because it's more prep time and more things the defense has to get ready for. But it's interesting that we were that efficient, out of the I formation. But it makes sense. I mean, that's you got chances are you're going to have a good number of a good box to block in the pass pro. So that makes sense there that we were efficient with the pass game out of the I formation. But for me, like I said, I'm excited about it. Looking forward to seeing us kind of just ratchet things up a little bit. Just keep that intensity for the second half, and I think we'll see more of that. I don't think we'll see as many. I don't think we'll juggle the offensive line as much, and I think that'll help a ton. And I don't think our game plan was really that aggressive, anyway. So, I'm excited about this week, and I think we're gonna win this kind of surprisingly easy. Mm-hmm. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, you and I talked about that a couple of days ago, and I was on the Stout Show here in Lansing an hour ago, and I mentioned I expected Michigan State to win by 7-10. Might be more than that. Some of that depends on Michigan State's ability to handle pressures on the offensive line. Boston College does not have that superstar pass rusher like they had last year, but watching them against Fordham, who's not very good, Boston College will bring some unique pressures and blitzes. They've got a nickelback, number 7. Is it Davis? Carter Davis, I think is his name, number 1 crouch linebacker. Both those guys can wheel around pretty good, and they're going to be coming on pressures. Michigan State's ability to handle those pressures, communications, unspoken communications, filtering out those pressures, quarterback making reads, getting it out on time. I think that's a big factor. And if Michigan State is able to handle those pressures, because I don't think Boston College can get to you with their set 4. It's going to have to be stunts and an extra man. If Michigan State can handle those, I think Michigan State can win by more than 14. So that's going to be an interesting test for pass protection.
Absolutely.
For a pass protection unit that's been a little bit questionable, and last week in the second half and some other times far from pitching a perfect game in terms of communication and assignments.
Absolutely.
And
I agree as far as that. That's the thing right there. That offensive line, if we can get those guys locked in on pass pro, and like you said, sift through the eye candy and make sure we're communicating where those pressures are coming from. quarterback doing a good job setting the protections. Backs, be sounding your blitz pickup. Those things happen. I don't, I like our chances with this one. Like I said, I like the way this team is prepared. I mean, they look like just that operation comp. Stuff like that. I like when I see defense communicating, everybody echoing the calls, everybody's getting lined up right. I mean, I saw one play where Malik Spencer was almost doing a jumping jack to get the corner's attention to make sure he got the call echoed. I'm like, that's what you need to see. Make sure everybody's on the same page. All 11 are playing with the same eyes, and we're flying around making plays. Offensively, again, like you said, let's button up that pass pro. Get some continuity up front. Backs keep hitting it up in there, and Aiden Childs stay efficient and hit those deep balls when they come your way. And I think we come out there with a 35-10 sort of game. That's just my gut feeling.
If they win 35-10, then they beat Youngstown State, then they go out to Los Angeles with a chance to stop traffic. If they can do something with USC, I'm getting way ahead of ourselves, but these things are possible.
You get out, like to use your word, we get out ahead of over our skis a little bit, but it's good to have some optimism for around here.
Yeah, and you can see the ceiling there. And I agree with what you're saying. I know you're an old defensive back, but Spencer, year 3 as a starter. Armorion Smith, whom Joe Rossi says is his smartest player in a lot of ways, smart player, and a guy that's a film junkie. Rossi says that Armorion comes in and if Michigan State's doing this in practice or doing this for inserting some wrinkle or just what they're doing on defense, he comes in and wants to know why. Okay, why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. He's big on why, and Rossi loves that. Armorion Smith, able to spend more time on football this year than last year with all the things going on with him and his family and becoming the legal guardian of his younger siblings. I mean, he's still in charge of making sure they're getting out of bed and they've got their lunch money and they've got their lunch was packed and they're getting breakfast in the morning and they're doing their homework. Only starter in the country doing those things for young siblings, and Smith is awesome.
I know what the schedule of a college athlete, the D1 athlete is. Getting practice and treatment and, study hall and all these things. And, there are majors, programs in the school that we really can't take because we just don't have the time to,
sure.
Commit to these, so I couldn't imagine trying to balance all that out. And still, you got to get home. Like you said, you got to get home and make sure that your siblings are, that's just all. That young man is a remarkable kid, and he's going to be a success no matter where he goes in life because that's just, at that young age, I couldn't even fathom having that sort of, I don't even know what the word is, that sort of character or whatever. I couldn't imagine having that.
Maturity,
that's
discipline, maturity.
Yes. It's just beyond his years, just, remarkable story. But like you said, now he's, a year in, he's probably got a little bit more support system and he can kind of turn his eyes to football a little bit more. And it's good to see. It's good to see. Mm-hmm. And before I go, I gotta give special shout out to his corners.
Okay. Yeah. I'm saving your DB. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Got to give special shout out to those corners. And folks are like, look, guys are going to complete passes, but I'll tell you this, yards don't get you beat, points do. So, if there's a, you hear fans say, hey, play the ball. You play the ball if you feel like you can play the ball. But I thought on most of those deep balls, those guys were in phase. They were, one of them, the first one on Eaton, that's kind of a opening play shot, but he was still there. The quarterback drops in the bucket. If I'm going to be picky, I say you probably could have looked and leaned a little bit more, close that window off to the sideline a little bit, shrink that. But, he's running step for step, good coverage. On a couple of deep balls, those corners were there. You got pass breakup from Rucker. You got freshman Aiden West in there running step for step on the deep ball. So those corners were covering those deep balls, man. I like to see that. That's, the next step is to make a play on them, but we'll get there. Because step one is to be in phase and be, so they're in phase. They're running stride for stride. Next step is to start making plays on those. But I like the way our corners were covering.
I agree. They got some length there. They moved their feet. They were in position. Safeties, communication, like you said, you got some good brain work in there. Jordan Hall remaining a program guy through all of it. He's taking a step with some quickness as a blitzer. You mentioned the communication. So the middle of the field, brain work is pretty good in there. Defensive line, Ben Roberts gets the start. Grady Kelly, I thought, was quick in a phone booth. Van Sumeren, I thought, was disengaging, albeit against a MAC team. Disengaging, even with even more strength. And Quindarius Nunnigan looks like a new player. Last year put on some weight coming into the Big Ten. Might have slowed him down. Now, he's strong if he's playing heavy to a 90-10 or two gapping. But then when he wants to go one gap and he's got the shoulder quickness to cross your face, They got that tackle for loss the one time when he goes inside, and Ade Willie came outside in a scrape replace, and they're both real quick. Dunnigan looks like a new player. Not surprised he won that starting job. 27 snaps. Jalen Thompson, his backup, 30 snaps. So those guys are going to be a good tag team over there at down defensive end. At edge defensive end, Isaac Smith gets a start. Cam Williams comes in. Santiago came in, made a good play on fourth down. Anello Lafayette came in. Had a sack. Alicio Moa came in, made some plays. By committee there at the edge position, not sure any of them is an individual standout just yet. Maybe would have liked to have seen something a little more loud out of Isaac Smith, but he'll get another shot this weekend. But I think that's going to be a continued competition in terms of who starts there. Not a position of strength, but still an interesting competition there. Your thoughts on defensive front seven?
Look, I'll just say this. This staff hit on those transfers, man. Like, they all showed up and did what we expected them to do as far as, this is what your talent is. We're going to put you in and we're going to ask you to do what you do. And I saw every guy you named, that they brought out of the portal kind of did what we expected them, to do. And it's good to see. I think that D-line, like I said, you want to see some guys step forward to take charge as pass rushers, but again, we got enough bodies and we can do it by committee, man. The stats all add up. I don't really care how it comes as long as we just keep, flying around, applying pressure and getting guys on the ground. I thought the tackling, that's another thing. That tackling. I thought I didn't see a ton of missed tackles. It was a lot of guys went down on first contact. I get it. We're playing against a MAC team, but MAC guys can make you miss tackles too. And if you're a bad tackling team, it doesn't matter who you're playing. Mm-hmm. So I thought the tackling was really, we tackled, really well in space. I saw guys hustling to the football. So that defensive group, that front seven, they're going to get better. I mean, and the reason why I know they're going to get better because it's playing time's on the line. Mm-hmm. There's so many guys that can play, and that means practice reps count. Everything counts, and that's how you get better. So I think that group's just going to keep getting, stay healthy, and I think we're going to see that group progress. All
right, Ron, I appreciate your time. We'll let you go now. I'll talk to you later. You enjoy the weekend. Have a good time Saturday night, Michigan State against Boston College. Appreciate your insight. Thanks a lot, Ron. Be good.
Hey, thanks for having me. Go Green.
All right, there he goes. That's Big Moobie, the great one. Ron Armstrong. We see he posts over at the Underground Bunker message board at SpartanMag.com. We always have a lot of fun talking with him. Very insightful, former Michigan State football player, lives around town, watches Michigan State closely, has watched Michigan State closely for years and years, and we appreciate his insight and his friendship. He's a good one. Go to SpartanMag.com. Check out Ron. He posts over there. The Bunker. I posted the Bunker. Jason Killip covers recruiting for us. Recruiting anchor posted the Bunker. Paul Konerdijk posting the Bunker. Kenny Jordan doing a good job posting the Bunker. Jake Laskawa doing a great job. He's posting the Bunker coverage. The Bunker is the Underground Bunker message board. It's a message board at SpartanMag.com. If you're a SpartanMag.com subscriber, go over there. All these astute Michigan State Spartan watchers are watching Michigan State all the time and commenting and conversations. SpartanMag.com. Got to check it out. $1. You can test drive it. You will like it. In the meantime, I want to get a word in from our sponsor, Shoepan Recycling. Shoepan, name of the company's not Shoepan Recycling. I call them that, but it's Shoepan. Shoepan, great company, and they want to urge you to take them back. Take those bottles and cans back. That's a message from Shoepan. It's a great company dedicated to recycling, dedicated to the Michigan State Spartans. Shoepan wants to let you know that the state of Michigan, the recycling rate in the state of Michigan has fallen from 90% to 73% in recent years. And Michiganders are squandering $105 million per year by not taking back their bottles and cans. That's hurting our environment. So help your environment. They're your roads, your beaches, and your lakes, your roads. Take them back. It's a message from Shoepan, a great Michigan company dedicated to recycling and dedicated to the Michigan State Spartans. All right, let's get into the mailbag real quick. Really happy that we had Ron on. That was a good, strong 45 minutes from Ron. Appreciate his time. We got a mailbag over at SpartanMag.com, Underground Bunker message board. I invite Michigan State fans, subscribers from around the world to post their questions about Michigan State football, and I will attempt to answer those here. Question number one, DWS from Troy, Michigan says, Jim, please tell me that Nadeem Tucker is a lock for the NFL, and I don't need to panic about the left side of the offensive line too much. Tucker was the pass rusher for Western Michigan, certainly had a great game, and he gave Michigan State a good look. Stanton Ramil was on him most of the time, got loose once or twice, also got loose from Connor Moore on the left side when Moore moved to the left side. Is Tucker a lock NFL player? I don't know. As we were talking earlier, I don't know why he was not productive at the University of Houston, why he left there. But some of these guys that were good Power 4 talents and things don't work out, they drop down to the group of 5. The light goes on, and it's a contract year for those guys. And whatever talent they had that Houston liked initially, that young man has tapped into it. He's quick. He's got quick takeoff and quick counter moves. I'm not sure how much film there was on that guy. So all those things ended up being a nice pop quiz for Michigan State that Michigan State failed in some ways. So also beat Lepo, I think, inside once. So lock for the NFL, I don't know. But if he plays like that, he'll get a chance. That's for sure. Question 2 from Iron Sharpens Iron from Iron Mountain, Michigan. He's not from Iron Mountain, but he didn't say where he's from. So I just assigned a hometown for him. When you post a question at the Underground Bunker message board for the mailbag, make sure you say where you're posting from, what town. Iron Sharpens Iron says, how does the place kicking group look for this game coming up this weekend against Boston College? He says, I hope we don't need a 40-plus yarder. Answer, I'm not sure it's much different than last week. They're not going to tell us when, I don't think they're going to tell us when Ahmet Basic and Connington are available to come back. They've been battling groin situations. Tariq Ahmet Basic, I think, was further ahead than Connington. So Blake Sislow, who was not in football last year, I think he transferred to Michigan State, just a regular student. Prior to that, played 3 years at Davenport, did not get on the field. And he was the place kicker coming into the game, coming into the season. I was like, oh, crap, that's a red flag. That's not good. But they say that his make rate was similar to Jonathan Kim last year in preseason camp. Looked pretty good in warm-up. I think they're confident in Sislow. I don't know if he's the long-term kicker, but anything inside of 40, I think it's going to be Sislow. We'll see what it looks like. Ryan Eckley, the punter, got a shot at 46 yards at the end of the half, missed it. He spoke with media yesterday. He really wanted to hit that one. He knows that he can, but he's a big-time punter, one of the best in the country. Kid from Florida, came up north, and things are going well for him as a punter. He's working on his kicking. He did it in high school. He has to manage that. He can't spend all day kicking because he's also doing kickoffs and he's doing punting. So you have to give that leg and that groin a rest sometimes. But kicking game in general, I don't think it's much different than last week until further notice. Question 3, NJ from Northville, Michigan says, can you give your full thoughts on the Western game and what you thought the difference between the first half and the second half was? Also, watching the post-game player interviews, it seems the players legitimately feel good about how they played, like they are a lot more confident in what they do. Even Childs seems more positive and less down on himself. Good comment. I would agree with those things. The Western game, another person asked a question. I'll get to that in a moment. Question from 84 Spartan from Lake Fenton, Michigan says, what offensive concepts do you think we will see in the Boston College game that Michigan State held back in the Western Michigan game? Was Michigan State's stagnant second half caused in part because Michigan State did not want to show too much creativity in the Western Michigan game? Those two questions are similar about what went wrong in that game. Sorry about that. Voice is going on me a little bit. And this is what happens when we go commercial free. Even the commercials here are readers, and I appreciate your patience listening through those things, including Roback. We'll talk about Roback in a minute. Did Michigan State hold back a few things? I think they did in the second half. I think Michigan State does have some deep shots and throwbacks, and not that I've seen them, but just the way Jonathan Smith has coached in the past and Lindgren, I think there are some wrinkles that they didn't get to in the second half. And Smith was asked if they held back a little bit, and he said not in the first half, which indicates that and insinuates that they did keep some cards to their vest in the second half. I'm sure there were plays on their play sheet that they had installed in this game that they didn't go to in the second half. Didn't feel they needed to, but by the same token, I don't think they expected to just finish with 21 offensive points. I think they figured they could generate points without going to those. Didn't turn out that way. So what happened against Western in the second half? Why were they stagnant? Those are the two questions. All right, breaking it down, Michigan State had the ball 5 times in the second half. Looking at drive stoppers, what happened? There were some false starts. There was a couple of inaccurate passes, 2 by Childs. There was a dropped pass. A couple of tackles for loss. We'll get into those in a minute. 5 drives. This is what went wrong. These are the drive stoppers. First drive, there was a tackle for loss. First play of the second half, tackle for loss with Tullis. Lost a yard. Connor Moore kind of let number 11 slip off of him. Got into the backfield, tackle for loss. And on that one, also, Michigan State came out I formation first play of the second half, twin receivers to the left. And that did not draw the entire secondary over there. The corner stayed over here, showing zone, and probably a blitz automatic. Is a run play this way, lead. Actually, is a run play this way toward that corner who was kind of by himself. And the fullback takes kind of the D gap. It's not a fullback lead inside. Anyway, the corner blitz automatic. He was not over there with the twin safeties. They just put a safety over there with twin receivers that went corner and safety. Corner blitz automatic and came in untouched. So I don't know if there's a shell game situation, rock, paper, scissors. Michigan State goes rock and they go paper. Sometimes that happens in football. Anyway, tackle for loss, ends up 2nd and 11, and Aiden Childs has Kelly open, misses him, inaccurate. So inaccurate pass. Like Moobie said earlier, he kind of pointed himself on balance. To me, that's a focus thing. Now, do we expect Childs to be perfect every single time? Something I'm unable to do in any walk of life, but we're expecting him to do that because we love football. We're rooting for him. You are. I say we, just talking in general about the observers of Michigan State football, but that's what observers are expecting. Can better focus. Was he properly focused? I assume he was, but there were some focus issues by and large with the team. Maybe that's too simplistic, but there were some things that stopped these drives that I think are correctable that were not physical problems. And as D'Antonio used to say, is it structural? Is it a talent situation? What did he used to say? Structural, which is like rock, paper, scissors. They just had the right play for the situation. Physical, as in physical limitations, or a mental error. Are these mental things? I don't know. So 2nd and 11, inaccurate. Before that, rock, paper, scissors, that drive stalls. Second drive, 3rd down and 2, false start. 3rd and 2, Michigan State tried to get into a hurry-up mode. Now, that is something that they showed that was new that they didn't have in the first half. So the theory that Michigan State held things back, not applicable here because Michigan State went hurry-up on 3rd and 2, ended up messing up themselves, not the opponent. 3 linemen moved. Gulbin didn't snap it. They called it on Velling, but they could have called it on 3. Different guys could have called it on the center. Maybe he was the guy that made the mistake. I'm not sure. But on a 3rd and 2, Michigan State tried to go hurry up offense, ended up screwing themselves up. Now it's 3rd and 7. Run a quarterback draw, get stopped for a gain of 1. So drive stopper. And the second one was a 3rd and 2 false start. Third drive, 3rd and 8. Childs throws an out route to Evan Boyd. Real good pass, and it goes off his mask. I'm still not sure how that happens. Evan Boyd, East Lansing, good talent, good player, is going to be a good player at Michigan State. Could have had his first reception as the Spartan right there. Went through his hands, not sure why. He didn't do it on purpose. He's not trying to drop the ball, but he'll be fine in the future. But on that one, kills a drive. That was 3rd and 8. Now, why was it 3rd and 8? On 2nd and 6, loss of 2, end around with Rodney Bullard, a guy with a lot of speed. They're trying to get into the mix. That's an end around. So again, that's not vanilla. That's something on their play sheet early in the second half that they wanted to get to. It's not a conservative play. It loses 2 yards. So this drive, the second and third drive, there were some things that they did that were kind of off script, that were a little bit different, but didn't work. On that one, Western had a safety in the box, kind of outnumbered the point of attack, and outnumbered, Michigan State's down blocking on one side, and they just had more numbers. No one was really physically beaten on that play. I call that one another rock, paper, scissors situation where, you shoot paper and they shoot scissors and doesn't match up. Now, how often are these situations in which Childs might be able to get out of a bad play? I don't know. Those are things it's hard for us to measure, and those are things, for instance, Connor Cook was really good at. So that probably is an area that can improve as well. So that's the 3rd drive out of 5. 4th drive, I give credit to Western Michigan's defense on the 4th drive. They just made a couple plays. 2nd down and 5, tackle for loss. Tucker, number 11, beat Connor Moore inside on an inside zone to the right. He was slanting to the offense's left. So it's zone blocking this way. He's slanting that way. So he crossed Moore's face. It's hard for Moore to zone block this way and react to that guy with that quickness. Got inside of Moore. And then he had the strength to continue to beat Moore to the running back. Loses 2 on 2nd and 5. Then it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6.5. Coverage sack. They come with 6 rushers. Michigan State has 6 blocking. Nobody gets beat, but it's a coverage sack on a blitz, which is kind of rare. They're coming with a blitz and still no one's open. And he had time initially, and then Childs didn't vacate to run. Looks downfield. I don't think it's a mistake for Childs. takes a sack. You never want to take a sack, but no one on the offensive line was getting beaten necessarily. It's a blitz. It's a coverage sack. So credit to Western Michigan defense on the 4th drive. 5th drive, Michigan State's driving. Childs on a 3rd and 12 due to a false start, but they survived a false start here. And also an inaccurate pass on 2nd and 12 by Childs. Now it's 3rd and 12, and I think that was the one where he hits a nice pass to Kelly on a 21-yard dig. He was flushed, so he drops back, and I'm not sure if he got pressure or just kind of flushes on his own. Omari Kelly, 21 yards dig. Might have been Childs' best play of the game. 21 yards coming out of their own territory. So they keep that drive going. Then a couple plays later, 28 yards to Krishan McCray on an over route. Nice ball, nice route, nice process, nice read. And then after all the run game success, counter boot, Masunis makes a guy miss, breaks a tackle, gains 13 yards. So on this drive, Childs, 21 yards to Kelly, 28 yards to McCray, 13 yards to Masunis. Good play calls, good execution, moving. What's the drive killer? Get down there 2nd and 8, 12-yard line, false start. I think it was Christian Phillips. The official says who the false start's on, and his microphone fails. We don't know for sure, but it looked like it was Christian Phillips. 2nd and 8 becomes 2nd and 13. That's when you get sack fumble. On that one, we all blamed Tullis, the running back, for not picking up the guy on the edge. I found out later it wasn't Tullis. It was someone else on the right side. So it was either Lepo or Velling, but it wasn't Tullis. Everyone assumes it's Tullis. Miscommunication, comes in untouched, sack, fumble, kills the drive. Childs is done. Next drive, not done injury-wise. They put Alessio in. Next drive, couldn't run the ball, pick 6. So 5 drives with Childs, and it's an assortment of things. First one, inaccurate on 2nd and 11. Second drive, false start on 3rd and 2. Third drive, off of Evan Boyd's mask. 4th drive, credit to Western Michigan's defense. 5th drive, overcame a false start, but then miscommunication on a sack. So that's what it was. Correctable? Yes. But when you play better opponents, there's going to be physical problems that you better be able to deal with. These weren't physical problems, although number 11 did test them in some ways and beat them in some ways. But breaking it down, that's what it was. Some commonality in there with some false starts, inaccurate pass, drop pass, focus. That's what I think. Miscommunication on the blitz, on the blitz pickup, focus. That's what I'm going to chart it up to. Did that to be better focus-wise in the second half? Yes. Against Boston College, is that going to be needed? Yes. Question 4, Matthew from Ravenna, Michigan. Jim, can you dive deeper into defensive coverages? I thought Rossi did an excellent job of keeping Western Michigan's off balance. Can some of this translate to the Power 4 level? Yeah, I think Michigan State is becoming more and more varied and voluminous on defense, and I think they've got the brain work to handle it. I think they've got the brain work because of Spencer, and they say Nakai Martinez, a very cerebral player too. Amarian Smith for sure. So Amarian, we'll see. He'll get tested speed-wise against Boston College. Jordan Hall, cerebral player, so that on the interior is good, and that gives you more volume that these guys can handle, more so than last year when they were in their first year of the program. Bill O'Brien, the coach for Boston College, had a really interesting quote in his press conference this week when he said that Michigan State does things on defense on 3rd down differently every single week. He says you can look at film and you look at what they do on 3rd down on defense, but on Saturday you're going to get something different. So that's a nod to the varied nature of Michigan State's defense, which is going to become more and more that way as they get it established. They're going 30 deep on offense, at least 25 deep on defense. And I thought Michigan State played quick, played fast. I thought Malik Spencer played fast. Jordan Hall played fast. Dunnigan played fast. Corners have some range. We'll see when they play against better wide receivers, whether they can move their feet on better receivers, which they will see this weekend. As far as the pressures and the coverages, Michigan State brought pressure or blitzes 45% of the time. 45% blitzes. That's a lot of blitzing. So they were not vanilla by any means on defense. 45% blitzes. And didn't see anyone really getting turned loose with, screwing yourself up on those. Western Michigan against blitzes was 6 of 12 for 78 yards. When Michigan State did not blitz, Western was 5 of 13, worse, with 1 interception and a sack as part of a 3-man rush when they weren't blitzed. All right, as far as coverages go, I just look at the first few drives. Michigan State did a wide array of things early on. So if you're Western Michigan and you get on the sideline, you're looking at your tab. You're like, okay, they did this, they did this, they did this. You're trying to make adjustments. Michigan State ran a wide variety of things at the beginning of the game. First 3 drives, all kinds of things. And I'd have to go back and watch it again. I'm not sure Michigan State showed the same defense two straight plays. They were changing it up all the time. There's different ways you can do it. Like, you remember, I mentioned this in the VCast yesterday. There were times when Lloyd Carr's defenses at Michigan, like they played Bowling Green, and they'd sit back in a 4-spoke shell quarters the entire game. And you're like, man, they're just off coverage. That defense doesn't look that good. Then the next week they play Notre Dame or somebody, and they're up in press man-to-man, completely different defense. Michigan State, could they have done that in this game? No. You got to win the game, go full bore. They did it. Also, they worked on it. If you're bringing pressures, there's rotations behind it. So there's no better dress rehearsal than a live game. So Michigan State came with a lot of defensive looks, with a lot of different players. And from what I saw, everybody handled their assignments pretty well against an offense that was not that great. But they stopped a running attack with a good running back with a questionable offensive line. First drive, first play of the game, Michigan State press man-to-man. They go deep shot, complete it, 35 yards. Was that that might have been Western at the line of scrimmage checking out of a play and saying, if they go press, we're going deep first time when we get a chance. That's probably what that was. Press man-to-man in the first play. Second down and 6, next time they threw it, it was blitz, cover 1, and they gained 12 with a completion. First and 10, off coverage, 2 deep, quarterback draw. Third and 5, 1 deep, press. Fourth and 4, 2 deep, and they zoned a bunch formation over here. Ade Willie with a pass breakup. So 2 deep zone on 4th and 4. So in that first drive, that showed a lot of different things. Second drive, first play of the drive, 2 deep, press, so it's 2-man. That's 2 deep, man under. First time they ran it all game, did it in the first play of the next drive. Second and 9, off coverage, showed cover 4, morphed into cover 3. It's the first time they showed cover 3 all game. And running back ran and gained 7. Third and 2, press, cover 1. And then they got a first down. First and 10, they get a tackle for loss. On that one, it's a run play. But on that one, Dunnigan scrapes inside. Earlier in the game, Dunnigan, who has some strength to him, was playing heavy a couple times, 2 gapping. On this one, he 1 gap to the inside. He was on the left side, 1 gap to the inside with quickness. Dunnigan showing quickness he didn't have last year. And turning the corner on that near safety in the second half. Quickness to the inside, Ade Willie, scrape the base to the outside. They're both in the backfield, tackle for loss. Both those guys on the same page showing some quickness. That was pretty good. Second and 14, cover 1. That's 1 deep, man-to-man. I can't remember if they were press or not. Third and 9, they show a 6-man rush. They're showing the 6 are going to come on the blitz, but then they drop and they only bring 3. So they drop into, I don't know if it was man across the board or a mixture, but they're showing 6. They come with 3, and they get a sack with a 3-man rush. And Alenu Lafale, the transfer redshirt freshman from Wisconsin, forced a fumble on that one. So you're talking, 2 drives, and they've shown an array of coverages. I'm not going to go through the whole game, but they're changing it. Different people playing with quickness, not screwing themselves up. The only time I really saw them maybe screw themselves up was on the 4th and 12. Remember the 4th and 12, they complete a pass, but it's short of the first down, and Santiago drops into coverage and runs over there and makes a tackle. On that one, they kind of turned a receiver loose. Quarterback might have been a tad late finding him. Ade Willie was in the area. Maybe there might have been a coverage mistake there. And then Ade Willie missed a tackle, which they didn't miss many tackles the entire game. That might have been the only one. So it might be the only play of the game where they he dropped maybe 2 deep. Maybe they wanted to do it that way. I don't know, because they didn't need 12 yards, which is a lot to get on 4th down. But I don't know for sure they turned a guy loose. I'm not sure there was an error there. It looked like one, and then there was a missed tackle. They didn't make many mental errors all night. They didn't miss many tackles all night. Very few, maybe only one. They did both of those on that one play on 4th down. That's not great. But Santiago dropping into coverage as a rush hand, goes over there, makes a tackle, gets him on the ground, gets off the field. Question 5, Saimatika from DeWitt, Michigan says, is this a must-win game for Jonathan Smith? A loss would deflate the fan base, he says, especially if it involves a stagnant offensive performance, new athletic director in place, etc. I'm ever the optimist, and I know there are bigger games left, but this seems bigger than normal. I don't have a long answer for that, but I'll get to that in a second. But first, let's talk about sponsor Rowback. You got to check out this stuff. That quarter zip right there, Rowback, polos, and also all kinds of activewear. Rowback sponsor here is part of the On3 network. It's great stuff. Rowback, there's only one way to describe Rowback. That's best fit, best feel. For those of you that are not familiar with Rowback, they're completely changing the game with their incredible, comfortable activewear. It's comfortable and it's activewear. Rowback has released some great new licensed items within the Rowback Game Day collection, including these things behind me. There's some new novel polo designs, a clean hoodie, and quarter zip designs for some of your favorite schools, including Michigan State, and it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. No one else in the market's providing stuff like this. It is good stuff. And not just the hoodies and quarter zips. Check out the everyday shorts, Delta Performance pants, super comfortable, elastic waistband, great fabric, Rowback. It's the best. Use the code. We got a promo code here for you. MSU20. MSU20. Use that and you get 20% off for all new customers, including yourself. Go to rowback.com. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. Rowback.com. 20% off with performance code MSU20. I'll put a link underneath in the comments area to rowback.com. RHO back. Rowback. Check it out. And I think you'll like their stuff over there. As far as Jonathan Smith, yeah, it's a very important game, but I think we say that every week. I think we've always said that. I think we said that about a lot of games over the years for a lot of coaches. It always feels like the next game is the most important one because the next game is the most important one. That's what Mark D'Antonio used to say, and that is certainly the case this week. Got to win this one to show some progress over last year, right the wrong of last year, losing to Boston College. Boston College, incredible opponent. Not bad at all. Need to go out there and get it done, but I'm not willing and ready to say that it's a must win. Very important, and if they lose, it will deflate some of the fan base. In that regard, you're right. Question 6, Green Spartan in Garden City, Michigan. What steps does Aiden Childs need to take in week 2 to get Michigan State the win? That's his question. Answer, don't turn it over. That's what I think. Get Michigan State into the right running plays and out of problematic ones. We talked about that, some of the things that went on in the second half. I don't know if that was a case where he could have gotten out of some of those. I'm not sure. The out route to the field was good. I think Michigan State wins this one by 10-14. If he connects on some open, deep shots, if some guys get loose, just one or two of them, then they'll win by more than 10-14. Don't turn it over. Don't make the mistake. Their defensive backs are pretty good. That's what he needs to do to win this game and move forward. Question 7, Mark in Chandler, Arizona. This is a huge game for the offense. A lot of people are looking for Childs to have his best game so far as a Spartan. Based on what you saw from the offense last Friday, what are your expectations going into Saturday against Boston College? I expect for Michigan State to win by 10-14. Advantage in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Offensive line must handle Boston College's blitz and pressures. Michigan State, saw a lot of blitzes and pressures during the preseason and camp. Are they getting better at handling those? They need to show it in this game. They turned some people loose against Western. Can't happen in this game. And if they're solvent against those blitzes and pressures, then Childs can go to work. These receivers can get open. It's a pretty good secondary, but I think the run game, I think that in the trenches, I think Michigan State has an edge there. And we'll talk more about that in the pre-snap read coming up at SpartanMag.com tomorrow. Question 8, Adam in Grand Rapids says, what are your honest thoughts on whether Michigan State coaches closed the playbook in the second half? Did Jonathan Smith know they could win without their best plays in the second half and close it off? Or is this an excuse half class full fans are making? Adam says. Adam also says, do the show live, so we're doing it live. Last week we taped it and posted it afterwards. I think it's a combination. I think, I mentioned earlier that there were some plays like the end around that was not vanilla early in the second half. What was the other one I just mentioned? Oh, and they went hurry up on 3rd and 2 and messed themselves up. So it's not like those are gadget plays or anything, but those are concepts they didn't show in the first half that they brought at the end of the game. But as they got into the fourth quarter, I think Michigan State did go closer to the vest. I'm sure they had more wrinkles that they didn't use. I suspect that's the case, and Smith kind of insinuated that was the case. And Michigan State, some of their wrinkles and tricks, it's not like you're going to see double reverse pass, but they'll do some things with, play action, maximum protection, throw back deep type of stuff. We didn't see a lot of that. They've done it over the years, didn't do it in this game. I think there were some things that they didn't go to. I think they did hold back a little bit in the second half, but not entirely. But the main thing in the second half, you have to execute without false starts. Pass protection assignments, those got to be sharper. You have to be accurate with, a couple of inaccurate passes. You get in close games, whether it's at Indiana, at Iowa, at Minnesota, against Michigan. You get into some of these close games later in the season, maybe this weekend. You can't afford 2 inaccurate passes and a dropped pass in the second half. That'll get you beat. Didn't get you beat in this game, just got you off the field, but those things need to tighten up. Question 9, Freeland Spartan from Freeland, Michigan. He says, feels like this is going to be a heavy Childs mailbag, which is expected. He says, he just kind of prefaces his question by saying that. My question, he had a few times in the game where he escaped the pocket and he had a lot of grass to run, but opted to pass. Do you know if this is how he's being coached or if he needs to use his legs as a running threat more often? Great question. Didn't really get a chance to ask questions about that. I mean, we did... Smith had his press conference on Monday, didn't come up. I'm sure there's, a lot of that. I really don't know. But I'm sure some of those, they'll say, Aiden Childs, it's 3rd and 6. You're out here, just go ahead and run, take the first down yardage. The one where he threw deep, it was 1st and 10, so he took a 1st and 10 deep shot, missed tallest on the left sideline. There's another scramble when he had Kelly deep, could have been a 75-yarder, missed him. I'm not sure if that's one where he could have kept it for more yards. There was a zone read keeper where I think a lot of people thought that if he'd have turned it upfield, might have gotten the first down or something closer to the first down. Instead, he danced around and ended up getting only 1 or maybe no gain. Some of those design keeper zone reads, we talked about that earlier in the show today, can be better with decisions there, and he's going to continue to work on that as he gets more experience. His legs are a weapon, and the decision-making part of that needs to become better and better. Question 10, Spartan Fan 81 from Orange County, California. Also, Spartan Fan 81 is a key contributor over at Underground Bunker Message Board. $1, subscribe, SpartanMag.com for a week. Check it out. You'll love it. Spartan Fan 81 says, name your best starting 5 offensive linemen after week 1. Your best starting 5 offensive line after week 1. I think he means who would I start in the second week. I'm not sure. Depends on if Vintage is healthy. Was he ahead of Carter? I'm not sure. I thought Carter played well at right guard. I was surprised he was out there and he played better than I expected out of him. So that's a bigger plus in an offensive line than I expected. Even more depth than I expected. Stanton Ramil, he's your left tackle. There was the 1 sack. We talked about this in the VCast yesterday and after the game. 1 sack where 11. Tucker got a pretty good takeoff on him, and Ramil had him. And I think was in the process of controlling him back behind Childs, but instead of stepping up, Childs stepped back. And no, that wasn't him. That was Connor Moore. The one that Ramil gave up for a sack, he had Tucker, and Brocious at left guard didn't have anyone to block, so you look for work. You find number 11, and he went over and gave him a chuck, ended up chucking him off of Ramil. Turned the corner, gets a sack. And 11, to his credit, took that inertia and still had the balance and ankle flexibility, hip flexibility to turn the corner and stay on track to the quarterback. A lesser man would have just been knocked off balance and been a non-factor. But Tucker, quick takeoff, balance, made it happen. And Tucker, by the way, if he's got another year of eligibility, I could see Michigan State going after him at the portal next year. Sorry, Western Michigan, but I could see that happening. I asked Stanton Ramil about that during interviews on Tuesday, and Stan just smiled and said, SHIT happens. He didn't spell it out. He said it. So the sack goes on him on the Pro Football Focus grades, but in their room, I don't think it was him. So Brosh, I think the correction is, Gavin, when you've got to find work, read the situation. It's a pass rush. Try not to help a guy that way. But he's playing hard. He put a contact on the guy. I don't know how they coach that differently. That was a fluke, basically. But I think Ramil's fine. Brocious, I didn't really notice him in this game, negatively or positively. That play right there, not necessarily a negative. Run game was pretty good. Gulbin at center, good. Caleb Carter at right guard, good. Connor Moore, good enough. Good and sometimes quick. Left tackle looked a little rusty in pass protection on the left side. Christian Phillips comes in. He's moving people and run blocking, but he had a couple false starts. Vincic and Phillips were neck and neck battling for right guard. Vincic is hurt, and Caleb Carter wins the job somehow. So if they think Brocious needs some more competition on the left side, does Vincic go over there? Does Phillips go over there? I'm not sure. It's going to be interesting as Vincic comes back into the playing group where he fits in at and where he looks. Because I think last year, I thought he was better than Phillips and Brocious last year. We saw Phillips for one game, saw Brocious for 3.5, saw Vincic as a spot starter at Oregon State. I thought Vincic was better than both. So I think that's a good competitive situation. I thought Caleb Carter would have been behind all three of those guys. He starts and he was pretty good. But I think same starting five. If there's a change, maybe at left guard. I'm not saying Brocious was bad at all. But if some of those other guys are even better, I think that might be. I thought Carter played well enough to hold on to that job. It's competitive. Got to get the communication down. It's competitive and it's competent, and there's some talent there, and there's some depth, some competent depth there. I think that's a positive going forward. Question 11, Jay from Lake Forest, Illinois says, in the final scrimmage, I saw much more offensive creativity than we showed against Western Michigan. So Jay from Lake Forest, Illinois, not afraid to say that he was at the scrimmage. And he says, I saw much more offensive creativity than we showed against Western. In your opinion, do you think we were holding back for Boston College once the game was under control? So there's a repeat question. Media, we were not able to go to the scrimmage, but I did hear what you're saying, and I do think that's the case. I do think they were holding back a little bit, and I do expect some more creativity, some misdirection. And, when you go to a scrimmage and you see different plays, you're seeing some install and you can't run all those things in one game. They might install 5 or 6 or 7 misdirection things, or just some tangents off of things that they don't plan for week one. I don't think. I think there's some install there that you may have seen that span into September. Question 12, Desert Spartan from Phoenix says, Comp, how many future pros do you see on Michigan State's current football roster? Tough question, and it's too early. Week one. I mean, the last time we saw these guys play in November, and then there's 41 new players. So this game, I went over it a few times because it's the first time I've seen Nelu Lafayette. Never seen it before, other than practice a little bit, but nothing in 11 on 11. Christian Phillips, basically his second game. He's been on campus for 4 years. Started in game 1 last year, Florida Atlantic. Played pretty well, out for the season. Other than that, we've seen him a little bit in mop-up, a little bit in field goal, but first time I've seen Christian Phillips. So I'm not closing the door on him and what he can become. Stanton Ramil, I think he could be a pro. Didn't have a great game. Gulbin, I think Gulbin's looking pretty good at center. Jaden Savory, true freshman tight end, doesn't get on the field. He could be an NFL guy in the future. Haven't seen him play yet. So you're talking about the roster. I mean, Malik Spencer might be borderline. Brady Pretzlaff down, he's second string right now. Down the road, he could be. Jordan Hall, he's improved. Quindarius Dunnigan looks different. I don't close the door on him. Omari Kelly, he looks capable. We heard a lot about Rodney Bullard. I don't close the door on him yet either. There's a lot of guys we haven't seen much from. So for me to put a number on how many NFL players, man, I'd be throwing a blind dart at a dartboard. Some of these guys might not make it. Maybe many of them will. I really don't know. I'm not closing the door on a number of them, though. Not closing the door on Ben Roberts. Van Sumeren needs to continue to come along. Ade Willie all of a sudden looked pretty good. The corners, I don't know. Bell, I didn't think Bell was very good at UConn. He wins the starting job and looks all right. Josh Eaton had a good spring. Does he have all the juice? I'm not sure. Aiden West, good chance. He's second string right now. All right, Oak Park Spartan from Pasto, Colombia says, why do coaches always speak in sentence fragments? D'Antonio did it and so does Smith. Is it them or the editing of the comments? I guess when he talks about editing of the comments, he's talking about the quotes that we run. But, Jonathan Smith, he does leave out the subject when talking. Like whoever's doing the action a lot of times, instead of saying, I think we played well, but on third down we needed better protection, he'll just say, played well, third down, protection. He doesn't have the subject and the verb in there, so sometimes we're scrambling to fill in blanks, but just the way he talks. Scotty Hazelton, former defensive coordinator, never finished a sentence. That was a challenge. Izzo has improved in that area, but speaking in complete sentences is not what they're paid to do, so I got some patience with that. Doug from Osceola, Indiana via Dowagiac says, Jim, after week 1, by the way, it's Dowagiac, it's not Dowagiac. Dowagiac. Says, Jim, after week 1, what question did you have leading into the season that you feel was answered most confidently, and what do you still feel is a question mark to be determined? That's a good question. How about Doug? Doug bringing a nice question. What question did you have leading into the season that you feel was most confidently answered? Quindarius Dunnigan, quick. Heard he was a different player, heard he was quicker, and saw it. Now you got to keep doing it. Last year, Bogle and Ken Talley did some good things early in the season. The year before that, Jacoby Windman, and then it tailed off later. Need to keep coming with that. I thought Dunnigan, beneath the surface, had a real nice game. Jordan Hall, demonstrative, quick with his inside blitzes, communicator. Connor Moore was a little more, was physical, was decently physical. Watching him at Montana State, I thought that he was athletic, good lateral movement. Wasn't sure about his physicality. I think his physicality was a little better than I expected, albeit against Western. I'm not saying he's going to be, decleating Penn State when they play them, but the physicality looked okay with Connor Moore, a young guy that's still getting into his man body. He's a redshirt junior. Omari Kelly, real deal play finisher. Makai Frazier, quicker, direct, some physicality. These are things we didn't know. Ade Willie, quick and capable. He's a guy that struggled for 3 years at Michigan State. On the field, wouldn't go so well. Get on the field, wouldn't go so well. Now he's at nickel. He's got some corner quickness there. Maybe not all the quickness to be a full-time corner, but decent quickness when you're talking about being, in the slot area in the box and so forth. Has some physicality too. Alex Van Sumeren, defensive tackle. He's always been quick. I thought he's even quicker. Stronger with the disengagement. Some of the reserve defenders, Samaj Bridgman flashed. Anelu Lafael flashed. Aya Samoa with a stunt flashed. Chance Rucker and Aiden West come off the bench at corner. They look pretty good. So, in terms of questions that have not been answered, Aiden Childs continued to process, getting into the right play in the run game, playing clean an entire game, hitting some deep shots. The inaccuracy things, it's not as scattershot as it used to be, but if he can continue to fine-tune that into where his accuracy becomes almost every time, which is impossible to be accurate every single time, but if he closes in on more of that, the deep shots, and the two inaccurate passes, which contributed to drive stops in the second half, those are areas that I'm not sure he's going to get to, but that's an unanswered question, and if he could, dangerous. Velling as a blocker, I need to see more of that. And as his foot gets healthier, does he become more of the play design and become a functional, dependable blocker more so than last year? Place kicking, big question. That. Can they get a pass rush with 4? Edge pressure by committee is fine, but there's no go-to guy right now. Could Anello become that guy? Isaac Smith, I don't remember him making much noise. Santiago made the play on fourth down, downfield. Didn't see a lot of electricity from those guys in the pass rush. I'm not sure there's going to be any saviors there this year. Armorion Smith, is he quick enough in the deep part? Can Nakai Martinez come back sooner? Will they split time this weekend? Can Jalen Thompson become more productive? He played 30 snaps. Dunnigan played 27. Thompson came off the bench. That tag team can be good, but Thompson needs to start making some noise. Yeah, he was involved in that. Safety. Scoring 2 points there on that one. The offense just kind of wedge blocked and turned him loose. Van Sumeren penetrated also. I think there's a run blitz. I think Jordan Hall came in and attracted the left tackle, and that's why Thompson was loose. So Thompson finished the play there. Didn't necessarily beat anyone to do it, but he needs to continue to come around. Question 14, Roxy from Grand Haven, Michigan says, since this Jonathan Smith era began, Roxy says, the lack of second-half adjustments and improvements in team enthusiasm has been a troubling pattern. He says the last game we outscored anyone in the second half was Prairie View last year. Roxy says, in your opinion, why is there such a drastic difference between first and second half in every single game? Great question. I don't have an answer for that. Last year, depth was an issue. I did think Michigan State lacked, physical fizz and zest. They tried, but they were on E in the second half against Rutgers. Second half, I thought focus was a problem when Purdue came back on them. Is focus too simplistic of a term? I don't know, but there was just a lack of edge in the second half against Western also. D'Antonio used to talk about, we want to play with an edge to us. We want to play with an edge to us. There's something to that. That's not just coach speak. D'Antonio, Saban used to always say, don't play the score, forget about the score, play the next play. Izzo, same way. I think Michigan State needs to get into harnessing a lot of that as well. So let's wait and see if this continues to be a long-term trend into this season, and we'll talk about it more. Question 15, Green Doc from East Lansing says, how can Michigan State get Krishan McCray and Rodney Bullard, the two slot receivers, more involved in the offense? We heard so much about their big play potential, but very little touches or targets against Western Michigan. All right, Bullard played 23 snaps, McCray 36 snaps. Michigan State likes to do two tight ends, and if two tight ends are on the field, then a slot's not going to be on the field. Michigan State played some I formation. When they do that, there's no slot receiver on the field. Otherwise, you're going to have 12 on the field. So if it's two tight ends or I formation, there's no slots. So that's 20 of your 70 plays right there. Targets, Childs, 23 pass attempts. Omari Kelly, 10 targets. I'm comfortable with that. Nick Marsh, 5 targets. Probably needs more, right? So do you take 2 away from Kelly to give him 8 and give Marsh 3 more to give him 8? Now you're talking 16. There's only 15 pass attempts for those guys. So I think Marsh needs more. And Smith kind of indicated that. I think Marsh believes that too. So that leaves, after those 15 pass attempts, there's only 8 other pass attempts by Childs in this game. 8. 3 go to the running back, 3 go to the tight end. So that leaves 2. Do you want the running back to get fewer? Do you want the tight ends to get fewer? I always hear they need to get the tight end more involved, need to get the slot receiver more involved, need to throw the backs more. Well, who do you want to throw to less? Marsh? You want to throw to Kelly less? You'd love to throw 55 passes and get everybody 8 targets, but McCray ended up getting targeted twice, Masunas twice, Tullis once, Velling once, Frazier once, Alante Brown once, Evan Boyd once, Rodney Bullard 0. So you're right. They ran Bullard on an end around, lost 2 yards. Bullard does have ability. You will see it. But if you're throwing to Bullard, it means you're not throwing to someone else. So you tell me who you want to throw to less. Might have to shut this one down. Voice is leaving me. Question 16, MAC from Kalamazoo says, on the incomplete pass that hit Boyd in the face mask, I came away impressed with the arm strength to make that throw from the far hash. It seems like an area that defenses will concede, dare the quarterback to make that throw. Do you see that as something Michigan State will come back to, or is throwing that far across the field too dangerous? Yeah, I think Michigan State will come back to it if a team gives them that. Now you have to be concerned that someone might bait you into that, but that's up to Childs to see it and adjust as it's unfolding. But yeah, negatives for the defense, if you're up there pressing everybody, you may give more of a chance for a deep shot. You might be weaker against the run. So the threat of being able to connect on the hitch from sideline to sideline, even on the left hash out there, I think it might not stress a defense in terms of a big play, but it may make you a little weaker against the run theoretically, and maybe open you up more to a deep shot because the safety, if you have to go over there and help, if you have to shade a safety way over there to the wide side of the field, that's taking that safety out of the box for the run play. Yeah, the voice, it's early in the day. My voice always sucks worse earlier in the day. So I think we've got to shut it down. I had 4 more questions here, but I'm not going to be able to get to them because the voice is done. So appreciate all the questions that were posted, and we're going to have to bring the tarp on the field and call this one off the rest of the way. But I appreciate the questions and the support over at SpartanMag.com. $1, become a subscriber. We got more work to do, more content coming. Go check out SpartanMag.com. Just look at the content that we've been posting covering Michigan State football, covering your Michigan State Spartans. So, and we appreciate those of you that subscribe to SpartanMag.com. If you've not subscribed and you're thinking about it, now's the time. We'd love to have your support. Go to SpartanMag.com. Become a magger. Get on the message board. Ask questions over there. We're always talking about Michigan State sports. Sorry we don't have time to get through the comments section for other questions, but we'll be getting to that in the weeks ahead. Michigan State 1-0, taking on Boston College Saturday. We'll see you over there. Thanks to the maggers that say hello to me, walking to the stadium and tailgates and so forth. Always great to see you. Everybody have a great Thursday and safe travels coming to East Lansing for a big Saturday night game. Take care, everybody. We'll see you.